Okay, here we go, and welcome to the podcast. Haven't you been waiting for this for 2 weeks or something like that? Well, I'm here. I'm happy to be here. Who am I in the first place? Well, my name is Yadita Span, and I am a mom. I am a caregiver of a brave child who was diagnosed with epilepsy. I am, what else? I'm an author. I have a book called Don't Give Up, and hey, don't give up. You can't. You have to keep going. You must. It's important. Okay, so that's for the caregivers and the parents and everybody out there. That book is actually on Amazon. I'm going to get it on Ingram Spark pretty soon. I'll tell you about that. What else? What else? What else? A purpose coach. I love to coach people, and especially people who have gone through difficult situations and times in life, and they kind of need a little nudge, or they feel like they just need someone to let them know that they can continue on and they can make it. Health advocate, parent advocate, all of those wonderful things. But most of all, I'm here to talk with you about my experience as a caregiver, as a parent, as a child, of a child with epilepsy. So one of the things about us is sometimes we're just a little sleepy. We're a little tired. So don't worry about if I fumble my words tonight. You know what I'm saying. I want you to pay more attention to what the message is. And let me just put this out here also. I see people do wonderful things with podcasts, but I'm here to get the message out more than anything else. So I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of editing, because who has time for that right now? Cutting any onions, but it was almost like my eyes were starting to burn a little bit as I started to think about this topic and our personal experience. And so I'm not here to, get on teachers in the educational system, but I am here to advocate. I am here to hopefully help someone understand how we can just develop positive parent partnerships, especially when it comes to a child who has been diagnosed with a seizure disorder. And there are many other illnesses that children are diagnosed with. Regretfully, we are praying for our brave little children. I speak about epilepsy because that has been my experience with my child. And so I have some understanding of what it feels like, and some of the things that we go through, and how I became almost an instant researcher. Listen to my words tonight. Isn't this funny? But a researcher, right? I just had to learn what to do. What's causing it? Is anything causing this? Are there any triggers? Do I need to change my light bulbs? And I did need to do that. Do I need to not necessarily have her in a space where people have these strobe lights going? And I talk about that. That'll be another topic too, for when we go to houses of worship, where we go to worship God, how, the ambiance has changed a bit from when I was younger. People now, they're like, hey, put some strobe lights on and let's do flashing lights. And we'll also talk about when children go to places, if it's Make-A-Wish, if it's some of the other organizations, just see Purple for royalty, right, for bravery. And so I said unapologetically purple because I feel like sometimes when people are diagnosed with a neurological disorder in particular, that there are times when some people, not all, are not willing to try to understand. They will usually, or sometimes not, some cases say, you can make yourself stop. You're bringing that on, which is a total lie. It's just not true. Believe me, nobody's going to want to fake a seizure unless they are trying to be just not being compassionate, honestly. There are some people who do that and they think that's funny and all of that stuff. But I tell you this, if they were having a real one, they would not want to play around with that ever again. When they came out of it, they would probably be screaming for mercy and anything else and not playing, because it's not funny when a person doesn't know when a seizure is going to come on, and it does, and then when they come out of it, to know that they were standing up at one point and all of a sudden they're either on the ground or they're sitting in a chair and people are looking at them, or the teacher is going, what are you doing? Stop daydreaming. Stop daydreaming. And they hear the yelling when they're coming out of the seizure. Or they miss part of the class. They really want to learn. And they're really trying to focus. But epilepsy doesn't care about that. Seizure disorders don't care about how much a child or an adult wants to focus in a class or even with their family. Just doesn't care. I like to tell it, take a hike, get out of here, right? But sometimes it does for a moment, and I believe in healing and the power of God. I'm a woman of faith. I also believe that faith sometimes happens at different times. And so as we wait for it to happen, it's what happens in the middle that I'm very concerned about. I'm concerned about what happens in the middle with how people are treated, how children are treated, how they're looked at, how they're bullied, how they're made to feel. Maybe, someone may say, well, they're not smart. And that's not true. They are smart. They just have a condition that sometimes tries to prevent them from being able to focus on the lesson. And in order to be so-called smart, we usually do have to focus on the lesson. We have to be able to write it down. And if you're writing and a seizure happens, then sometimes the teacher, in the midst of that absence seizure, right? Now, there are different ways that people see a seizure. Most people think and believe that the person's having a tonic-clonic or a grand mal where they're on the ground, but don't know that sometimes that child is sitting in a classroom. They're on a learning tool, learning software on the iPad or what have you, and they've had this seizure, or they're sitting in the classroom and they're writing, and they have this absence seizure where it actually looks like they're daydreaming. So really, if you're an educator and you don't know how to look for that, you may miss it. There are some children who have a number of seizures. That particular kind, they can have, who knows, it could be up to 30 a day, who knows. But whatever the number is, it's a lot for them to have to be able to struggle through trying to catch up, struggle with trying to learn, struggle with trying to seem like nothing's wrong when they know sometimes they can feel when the seizure is going to happen. Some of them, they get an alert. My child used to say, because I spoke to her, I said, baby, tell me what happens, because she would have enough time to call me sometimes and that would be it. And she would say, Mommy, I felt a zing in my leg, right? So she would feel something that felt like electricity in her leg and have enough time to say, Mommy, and I'd come running or I'd be there next to her, and that was it. She would have a seizure. And so what about that child in the classroom who wants to fit in so badly with the other children, or maybe even doesn't want to fit in so much but wants to be accepted just as we all do for who they are? Let me move this back a little bit. So to be accepted for being a child who's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, a teenager, or even an adult. This is me, right? I love that song, The Greatest Showman, right? This is me. I just love that song. I could sing it for you, but I'll do that another time. So what about that? And they're trying to learn, and then they're writing the lesson, and they're almost finished writing, and they have this seizure, and when they come out of it, sometimes people don't even notice it because they can still be sitting straight up. And then the teacher's erasing the whiteboard. I was going to say the blackboard. Shh. I'm a little older than that. But the whiteboard, so they're erasing it. And it's almost like I would believe that feeling would be a bit discouraging, knowing that you want to do your best and you're trying, but this seizure, this epilepsy disorder keeps trying to take over in certain aspects of your life. And knowing that regardless of the fact that it tries to take over, that you still have to keep going. You still have to keep performing. You still have to keep either going to school or being homeschooled or whatever it is. And then sometimes for us parents, right, there's a level of, I almost want to use the word frustration. I feel like that's a strong word, but that's the word that I'll use, right? Because you're like, I need my child to be able to keep up because I don't want the world to be hard on them. I don't want the world trying to ostracize them or tell them that they're not good enough. So you find yourself saying, come on, you can do this. Get this done. You can do this. You've got this. And sometimes we just need to back up a little bit and, I get it, right? This thing in society where it's almost like a competition. It's competitive. When sometimes I think that we need to be in the space that we're in and accomplish what we can, even if it's but for the moment, for ourselves, for our family, not in competition with everyone else. I think that makes it a little difficult sometimes. And I think that I'm going to give you some real examples of what happened to my daughter. So I remember when she was diagnosed, just like many parents do, you start to try to look up everything. I went on YouTube and started watching videos and started doing research and wanted to learn about the different types of meds, even though I would have preferred for her to be on something else, something natural, because you always think about their bodies, right? Things that I pray about as a parent. And so it was just like, I was looking at one video in particular, and the parents were talking about how much their child had changed. And as I started to look at the little boy, because they had pictures of him, and it was so odd to me because it seemed like he literally changed. He started off being this little boy with dark brown hair, with a round face and looking joyous and bubbly. And as his dad, he was being a commentator, and he was talking about the changes that were happening. I watched that little boy and I heard the sadness in the dad's voice as he says he changed. This epilepsy has changed him. It's taken away from our family. And then I looked at him when he was older, and he looked like a completely different child. And of course, you start to wonder, what is our journey going to be like? What should I do with my daughter in school? And I was working, and I'm going to tell you, it was difficult to sit there while I was at work, knowing that my child was across town. And I don't know about you if you're a parent, a mom, a dad, but I can't explain it to you, but I could feel her. I could feel when something was wrong. I could feel when she wasn't feeling well. I would be sitting there at work thinking about her, trying to concentrate as much as I possibly could on my job, because I knew it was like, we have to survive. I'm raising her by myself, and so we have to survive. I have bills to pay. I have rent. I have to keep a roof over our head. I have to do this, that, and the other. And then we had appointments. And then there were hospital visits and 911 calls, emergency calls, and different things like that. And we still had to keep going. And she was on medication sometimes that would make her so sleepy. Medication sometimes that, different ones that would affect her in a way that would make me say, get her off of this. And I did say that. This is not how my child acts. You got to get her off of this one. And I won't name what that was, because I understand that some meds that work well for some people don't work well for others. And so I know one of the ones she was on, as they were trying different ones, it caused a rage. And I saw something in my child that